It's been quite a week for the Department of Health and Human Services. The agency has seen some major restructuring, with 10,000 jobs being cut to streamline operations. Then President Trump pulled his nomination for Dr. Jeanette Neishawat one day before her Senate confirmation hearing. And the organization. Here with reaction is Dr. Evan Nadler, the former co-director of the Children's Obesity Program at Children's National Hospital. Dr. Nadler, thank you for joining me, sir.
Thanks so much for having me, Riley.
So I want to start with all of these changes going on at the HHS. It's a lot to process, and there's been a mixed reaction. So what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, right? Like all different pieces of news coming at us from all different directions. So it's really hard to actually catch your breath and think about what's going on.
Yes.
I think the registry, the autism registry piece is obviously super polarizing, and anytime people hear the word registry, you start to think about, privacy and people get concerned, right? We want to keep our private lives private. And I don't think it's going to show, the September timeline is unrealistic completely. Okay. And it's not going to show causes. It may show associations, and it certainly may help with what works and what doesn't work. But the rhetoric or the description of what's going on is just not really consistent with reality.
Okay, understood. I do want to see some investigation, but you mentioned about the timeline, so maybe it could take a longer time. But I also want to pivot as well to another issue facing the department, because everybody's talking about Casey Means for Surgeon General. I've been doing a lot of research into this myself, and I'll be honest here. I'm a little confused. I'm not sure what to think. I see some people who are very in favor of this nomination, including some health professionals. But I also see a lot of other people on the opposite side of this saying it's not the right call, we should find somebody else. So what are you thinking right now broadly about this choice of Casey Means?
My first thoughts about the Surgeon General are sort of like, I can name C. Everett Koop as a Surgeon General from Reagan's era. I'm not sure I can actually name another Surgeon General over the past 40 years. So whether the Surgeon General position is as important as we're making it out to be, that would be my first question. Because maybe I'm missing something. I don't even remember the Surgeon General during COVID. So, and I'm a doc, so one would think that I should remember such things. But anyway, Casey Means is a obviously controversial pick. She actually never finished formal medical training. She did finish medical school, but she didn't finish her residency. And if you know anything about medical training, when you graduate with an MD, you're not really qualified to do anything other than write a prescription maybe. And then she pivoted into sort of wellness and functional medicine. And, so she doesn't have a lot of credentials that give many people a lot of confidence that she's able to do the job. What I can say is that, the food policy that she and RFK are pushing have basis in scientific fact, and they're overall going to be probably good for America. Whether they'll be able to show any outcomes within a short time period, probably not. But, we don't need food dyes. We don't need as much sugar. We don't need all these ingredients that we can't pronounce. But whether that can happen and whether she's the right person to push that agenda, I think that remains to be seen.
Okay. Some other things I want to note here. So she's famous for writing this book. It was a New York Times bestseller, I believe, about the causes of chronic illness in America and just broadly, pointing to issues with metabolism and metabolic function. And that's garnering a lot of debate too. So I was hoping that you could explain for us maybe the point she's trying to make there, because a lot of us are concerned about the rates of obesity, rates of heart disease, rising rates of weird cancers. I've seen it in my own family, and it is disturbing, but I'm no expert in this subject. So I really want to get your thoughts about her mindset regarding metabolic dysfunction and just broadly the rise of chronic illnesses in the U.S.
Yeah, super important topic, right? Like you said, we're facing an epidemic of obesity that we know about, and obesity leads to a lot of cancers and obviously cardiovascular disease and diabetes and a whole bunch of other things. So that focus is necessary for sure. And she's part of the group that really focus on the mitochondria. So the mitochondria are the energy engines of cells. And there may be some good science behind that. However, the simplifying of it to if we just fix, so I read something the other day that there are about 140,000 different things that are in our foods. And to try to say that one or two are causing everything that's bad in America is a great talking point, but not really, again, being sort of realistic or even being honest or transparent. Chronic disease is really complicated, and that's why we've been struggling with it for 40, 50 years. So to think that we can just flip a switch and everything's going to be better, that's just not going to happen.
Okay. I understand. I really do. So then let's broaden it out and just look, long-term, big picture here. What do you think the HHS might be able to do to sort of correct course here and just get this country back on the right track? Because you see this in young people, old people, rich and poor. It's very widespread.
Yeah, and again, the changes that they're advocating are positives. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm all for what they're pushing.
Okay.
I think that some of it's going to be hard to accomplish because the food industry is going to fight back.
Yes.
And most of these changes are really, it took us 2 generations to get in this sad shape that we're in today. And it's probably going to take at least 1 generation and maybe 2 to get us out of it. So while again, totally in favor of all these food changes, I think we also, have to treat patients now, make those treatments more accessible. So that sort of goes into what the HHS cuts may affect and the budgets that are going to be passed in Congress, hopefully, sometime. And so it's complicated. You can't really remove one piece from the other. There's interplay. And so, yes, change food policy, but also deal with today, which is make medications for treatment of obesity, for instance,
Yes.
more accessible and care more affordable. So we got to do it all.
Yeah, no, I think that the real point there for me that's really important is I hear what you're saying, doctor, about treatment. That's very important. What's equally as important is prevention and trying to just be more proactive about this. I think, in my own experience, we're a little too reactive with some of these problems, and that's why they compound over the course of many years. So just to wrap this up, I'm hoping to see whoever it is, Casey Means or someone else, I just want to see this government take these problems more seriously. I want more proactive measures to try to get ahead of these issues so that way people can just be happy and healthy. That's just what I want to see, really.
Yeah, and if nothing else, both RFK and probably Casey Means, if she gets confirmed, are bringing attention to a really important problem. And whether you agree with the strategy they're taking, that's a different story.
Yes.
But at least they're bringing it into the national focus, which I think is going to be good for everybody.
Completely agree with you there. And thank you, doctor, for being here. I appreciate your time.
Hey, my pleasure. I'll come back anytime.